Great Thursday to you all. A great, and I'm not even sure if I'm to say a great spring Thursday or if I should say a great summer Thursday, because somehow this year it seems as if the spring was very fleeting, because I think we're almost in the summer months. But anyhow, welcome once again to our podcast, Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. And I know you know by now, but I'll remind you, I'm your host, David Etienne, certified public accountant. And naturally, yes, I said your host, and we represent both platforms of Etienne Business Solutions, which is our accounting firm, and Etienne Strategic Management Consulting, and our podcast, Crossroads Navigating Business Challenges, is actually launched to you or sent to you from this strategic platform. So again, welcome. 2 weeks ago, we were here and we introduced and spoke to a young man, a young budding entrepreneur. Very exciting discussion, very insightful and informative discussions. And as I said then, I'm repeating that I was very excited to launch this season of Crossroads by having my first guest being a young entrepreneur taking on the mantle and the challenges of business and really, doing great things. So very happy about that. Today we continue to meet at the crossroad. And today I have a very special guest. And it's interesting because this person, in her own right, is an entrepreneur, a business owner, a business operator, business manager, straddle a lot of different hats and things. But I've been fortunate, or I'm still fortunate enough to have this person functioning in a very, very challenging, but in a very effective way in my organization as my marketing and promotions manager. And so she takes care of all of my activities when it comes to marketing, promotions, etc. So even this podcast and all other social media activities that you see going on online in real time, behind the scenes, this is the person. But today, I am going to be speaking with her in her capacity as business owner and operator. So I introduce to you Miss LaToya Ferguson. Miss LaToya Ferguson. She is the owner, manager, operator, everything of Sweet Psalms Florist. Sweet Psalms Florist, which is one of the, and I'm going to use the word premier, one of the premier floral outlets in this neck of the woods. This neck of the wood being this part of Georgia. So we're more in this section. And so you would have heard, for those of you who are local, or even if you're not local, you would have seen Sweet Psalms Florist featuring online. So welcome, Miss Ferguson. Welcome.
Hey, David. Great.
Happy to have you today joining us. I'll be looking forward to very, very interesting discussions on you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, the owner and operator of Sweet Psalms Florist, and of course, at the heart of our discussion is to hone in on some of the challenges, the opportunities that present themselves, and then for us to discuss and see how we go. But before I even launch into the details of our discussion, I think I'm not unique in saying that the first time I heard the name of your business, Sweet Psalms Florist, I found it to be a very, very, very interesting name. Sweet Psalms Florist. There's a ring, there's a flow to it, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, how did she come up with that name? Does it have some connection with something? Was it just an overnight inspiration? So help me. Sweet Psalms Florist.
I get that question a lot with the name Sweet Psalms Florist, but the name actually came about. I started a Sweet Psalms ministry, and I love to bake. So Sweets is where the Sweet Psalms came from. And one day I was laying in my bed. I love the book of Psalms. And I was like, God, I'm going to start this business. What should I name it? What should I name my ministry? And he actually gave me Psalms. He said, you love the book of Psalms. You love to bake. So here we go. Sweet Psalms, put it together. And it actually birthed out of Sweet Psalms ministry into Sweet Psalms Florist. So that's really how the name came about. But it definitely was God inspired and God divine.
Okay, great, great. Sweet Sounds Florist. Sweet Sounds Florist. It's interesting. Now, I am not very familiar or knowledgeable about this industry. You know, the flowers industry, let me call it that. I'm not familiar with it, but I've seen them around. But tell me, how did you get into this industry? Give me a little background. Tell me your history, how you came about, what were the influences, how did you get to become a florist?
It's a story from way back when, but I actually am a second generation florist. My parents owned a flower shop originally in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And when I moved to Georgia, I decided, with all the other things that I juggle in my life, that flowers was such an impactful part of people's lives. And so I decided to actually open up my flower shop. But it all started with, I always say, whoever is a florist never just jumps into the floral industry. We start from way in the back, where I was just the girl who used to clean up and deliver the flowers for my parents. And I always tell the story because it's really one of those things where you're like, I hope it never happens to me. But being in the flower shop one day, my mom was out and a gentleman came in and said, I want fresh flowers. I'm like, okay, they're in the cooler. And he's like, no, I want you to make it. Uh, the cooler is full of flowers. I mean, pick one. And he was like, no, I want you to make one fresh right now. And so I made the arrangement. And I think that it was one of those, I don't think it looked so good, but the guy said it was great. So we went with it. And from there, I told my mom about it. And she's like, let's get you into designing floral arrangements. And that's actually how I ended up becoming a floral designer.
Okay, this was about what age?
Oh, I was 16, 17 when I started making flowers. But
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I
Okay.
started it. My parents started owning a flower shop when I was about 13 years old.
Okay, okay. So I will not try to guess or judge your age, but I would imagine that you have done quite a few years
Quite a few
being
years.
in the industry here. Great, great.
Yeah.
So your parents were in the floral industry from way back, and so did you naturally what? Take over the business? Are they still in the business? Did you take it over as a later generation florist or?
So my parents decided to retire from the flower industry, and at the time I took over their flower shop. They had moved down here to Georgia, but life happened and things happened, and there was a shift. So I had to close the flower shop and move here. And when I moved here, going back into the industry was never really my thing. I was going back and forth to Connecticut to do the weddings and obligations that we had when I actually ended up closing that shop. So for about a year, I was going back and forth, still doing flowers. But like I said, people started to find out I was doing flowers here, as you know, just helping out. Maybe the church wanted a flower, and so I would make an arrangement, drop it off, and it started to just become a more frequent thing that people were asking, "Can you do a flower arrangement?" And so that's when I talked to a consultant
Okay, okay.
and told me that, yeah,
Mm,
let's
okay,
start
great,
that.
great. Now, it is usually said that whatever business you're in, yes, you can always identify the exact service or product that you provide. But it's always said that running a business, you're providing something that is much larger than. Let me give you an example, and you see where I'm going with this. So, if a person is into beauty products, okay, yes, you're selling beauty products, but the idea is that you are selling image, self-confidence. That's what you're projecting, just that you're doing them through beauty products. You get me? So where am
Right.
I going with this? I'm saying, yes, you're in the floral industry, you provide a range, etc. But what is it that you are giving or offering to the public that is given through flowers?
I'm offering a bit of happiness and also a bit of, I want to say, a health product as well. Everyone likes to get flowers. Well, most people like to get flowers, when we put it like that. But flowers has a way of communicating how you feel if you don't have the words to say. Say I love you, say get well, say I'm thinking of you, thank you. So flowers provides a language in a different way through flowers. So I can communicate how I'm feeling, what I want to say by the different bouquets that I will give to someone. The other benefit that you're gonna of service that I provide is that flowers, they actually it has been proven that flowers actually help you to recover better when you're not feeling well.
Mm.
So there are several benefits and services that you can get from just having floral bouquets provided to you. Also plants as well. I always tell you, keep a snake plant in your office because it promotes positive thinking and what do you call it, team building, because you know your mind is always working. So there's different benefits that flowers give you. And so I mean, I could go on and on and on about it, but
I
you got to
understand.
last.
Okay, that brings me to a very interesting observation in that COVID, COVID had impacted and continues to impact just about everyone, okay, in different ways. It is significant the impact that COVID has had on businesses, all
Yeah.
right, in so many different ways. I mean, we could spend all the rest of the month talking about that. Now, when I hear you say that flowers give you a sense of well-being, help you to recover, help you to communicate, help you, to do a lot of touchy-feely kind of connections, I cannot help but think about the COVID era, the COVID period where I'm looking at it more from the point that all businesses faced significant challenges coming out of COVID. But am I right in hearing that yes, there would have been challenges, but then, and I don't want it to sound callous, but there was an opportunity or a space in this whole COVID pandemic for a florist and a floral service to really make a difference. That's what I'm hearing. Walk me through that in terms of how you see flowers contributing to this whole recovery process throughout the COVID year.
COVID. Um, COVID has impacted, uh, just like you're saying, a lot of businesses, but in the floral industry, and it's funny that you're asking me this question. I started at the beginning of COVID, 2019 started, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had to close down for a month, and I'm like, I just started, I have employees, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay these bills? But the benefit that I received from this COVID pandemic situation was people weren't able to go see their family. They weren't able to touch and feel and do all the things that we would do, family gatherings and celebrate birthdays. And so the floral industry really benefited from the pandemic in terms of, David, I can't go and celebrate your birthday, so I'm going to send you flowers. I'm going to send you a bouquet of balloons. I'm going to celebrate your anniversary by sending you flowers or a fruit basket or whatever it is. So during the pandemic, the floral industry was so pivotal in keeping people in touch. We did what did we say it was? Hands-free delivery, touch-free delivery, and it was awesome. That knowing that we were able to provide a service that helped people to communicate and let them know that, hey, I may not be able to be there, but I'm sending you these flowers to let you know that I'm still thinking about you. I'm still celebrating your birthday. I'm still celebrating your anniversary. And even on the other side with sympathy, there was Grayside services going on, and families could not attend services. So it was very key for them to have these floral arrangements there to express their sympathies to family members, and that whole situation that was going on there. So the floral industry at that time was key in keeping people connected. If it
Great,
wasn't for that, I mean,
great. Yeah,
oh,
that's true. That's true. Now, again, also, COVID brought about a shift in how the business of business was run. What was run? Okay. So yes, we used to have some element, and that this applies to all industries across all organizations. We normally have elements of remote work. There was
mm,
always that, but it is evident that COVID really turned workplace on its head. All right,
mm,
compulsory so because people just had to
yeah,
stay home, and so this new way of working, which is really remote work, took on. Yes, we know there were, and to an extent still, there's still efforts to try to get the workforce back out into brick and mortar. Don't know if that will ever go back to what it was before. That tells us that even for those who were reluctant, they quickly realized that they had to, what we say, change their business model. Change their business model to realize that, okay, the way that we do business has to change and change significantly. Now, the floral industry, the truth is, you have people who walk into a flower shop to get products, but mainly a large portion of it is flowers being delivered to individuals. Okay, so by its very nature, we realized that there was a deliver to clients or customers instead of them coming in. More so since COVID, the walk-ins are gotten significantly less because people are saying send them over. So it occurred to me therefore that the need for a brick and mortar walk-in shop front arrangement may not necessarily be that critical, not just for your business, but for a lot of businesses. I learned, I learned that you had actually responded to that change and has made a drastic shift in your business model. Tell me about it. Tell me about
yeah. So when I think that COVID made individuals realize that I actually don't need to leave my house to do business.
it.
And it really impacted the walk-in, the need for the brick and mortar. So I actually closed my storefront and have become an online owned florist and event florist. Because there's no need. Most of our customers, they call on the phone or they order online. If there's any questions that they need, there are the ability to chat with us on our website or send us a message and we'll respond. So once customers realize that it's a little bit more, and I would say a lot more convenient to just go
Mhm.
online, put in their orders, if they have questions or special requests, that ability is there and they can do it all from online. There's no need for them to really come into the store. So it really shifted my business structure. And I said to, create a workspace that is just better. And it would help me also to serve my customers better.
Gotcha.
So
No, I would imagine, and I'm just sort of thinking on top of my head. No, so a couple is thinking, I'm planning my wedding kind of thing. I'm planning a wedding. um, there's something about being able to go into a shop, sit with the florist, and really, I suppose, look through magazines, etc., see the actual products, as opposed. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there may still be the need to have that facility if people should show desire to have a face-to-face consultation, with a florist, especially if you're planning my 50th anniversary, etc. I want to really look and see and touch and whatever. So even with an online presence and a remote thing, do you still provide that facility if somebody needs it?
I do provide that service because you do have customers that are a touch, see, feel type of person. That's their personalities. They can't visually, they have to visually see it. So I still do provide that service, as well as Zoom has become an important part of keeping up with what's going on. So we do have consultations where we will do Zoom. They can share pictures with me. I can share pictures with them. So we will still keep the concept going, and they can still see what they're going to get, but it's just more of a virtual. But if need be, and the customer really needs to meet, then we do have it set up where they can come in and sit down with me, and we can go over whatever their needs are.
Great, great. Earlier on, you mentioned, and I just want to go back to it. In the shifting of your business model, I think I heard you indicated that you have now shifted more to events. I don't know if I heard that correctly, that you have more shifted to catering to events and corporate and kind of occasions. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so a part of the change of when we switched out from the brick and mortar, we were noticing that clients were more in need of setting up for events, and weddings are starting to come back more now. So what we have done is we've shifted our business model to really include planning events. So if you're having a dinner party, or David, you may want to have an office, what do you call it, a Christmas holiday party, something to that effect. We now provide a more upscale service where we will come out, we will set up the event for you, we will provide all the decor. We do the same for weddings, for corporate events. I work with the city of Rockdale. Every year they have a nonprofit event, and I do their floral arrangements for them. So I come out and I set that up. So we're moving more in the direction of what our community needs. And right now we're in that mode of events. They're planning events. People want to come out and celebrate. And so we're moving into catering to that part of our industry.
Great, 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 great. All right, I see. Good, good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those who may have joined me a little late, but welcome to the podcast. And here we're talking to Miss LaToya Ferguson. She is the owner, CEO of Sweet Psalms Florist. We're having a very, very, very informative, very interesting discussions here on her journey, her, introduction to the industry, her journey, some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that industry provides. So we continue our discussion. Now, at a later point, close to the end, we will be able to share with you all the contacts for Miss Ferguson for Sweet Psalms Florist in terms of website, telephone number, etc., etc. So stay tuned for that. LaToya, I am curious. The future prospects, I'm thinking of future prospects. Do you see the floral industry holding steady, gradually declining, or there are opportunities for growth going forward? How do you see this industry moving?
I believe that the industry is going to keep growing, but the important part of it is knowing your area. Even when I look across, and I'm in a lot of our online platforms, what I notice is that depending on the area, you really have to tap into what works for your community. So as long as you keep up with the trends, watch what's going on in the news, watch what's going on in the flower farms, because that's key. Are they producing a lot? Or are they not? Because those can affect how you manage your business. And so if you're able to we say ride the wave, with the ups and the downs, then you will succeed. And like myself, you have to pivot where you need to, because if you're not open to changing your business model, then you're going to have some challenges. But I definitely think that the floral industry is going to keep growing. People are still getting married. People are still celebrating their life events. And so as long as you can keep up with the wave, then I believe that you can make it out here. The industry will keep moving forward.
So a young person, it doesn't matter if it's okay. I'm thinking, so a young person coming out of school, college, or whatever, thinking that I would like to have a profession, a skill, and I'm thinking of this industry. Given what you've just outlined, is it something that you would recommend to say yes to a young person? This is definitely something that is worthwhile considering. On one hand, there are the other category of individuals would be, for example, a lot of our more senior folks. They may have retired from the crunch of corporate jobs, but still strong, still healthy, able to do whatever, and they want something to occupy themselves that is satisfying, that's rewarding, but not too taxing on the body and the mind. So for those two categories of persons, is this industry something that you'd recommend?
This is a hard industry. It's a hard industry, and if my younger self, I would tell her no, because it takes a lot out of you, as any business. But the floral industry is one as such as there are new flowers coming out. You can't predict the farm, and if you don't have an alternate source of resource, then you may want to give up at 6 months. So if you don't have an alternate source of fund of resources to provide for your income, then I would tell you no. No, think twice. But for those of us who have been in the game, we know that, like I said, we know the waves, we know what to look for, we know what our seasons are, and that's key. We have our beginning of the year, we have our Valentine's, set you up for Mother's Day set you up to get you through the summer, and then you have the end of the year, which is Thanksgiving and Christmas. So although the industry, I believe, will continue to grow, if this is not your passion, it's definitely going to be a hard industry for you to get into and to understand how the dynamics work.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you mentioned, and it crossed my mind too, that, as I say, through my uninformed eyes, I'm thinking that there are times of the year when it is flowers time. You know what I'm saying? Those are the peak season, flowers time. Yes, during the year, people will have birthdays, etc. But there are those times when it is really your peak time. So I'm thinking that you have two major peak, which would be Valentine and Mother's Day, right?
And
those
then
are the two.
Those are the two beginning peaks, and then again at the end of the year, you're looking at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so the summer months are really event months, because now I'm hearing about all these events. And in order for me to really keep up with the summer months, knowing that the everyday business is a little bit slow now, I'm looking for events. I'm out there. Do you need me to set up for a birthday party? I just did an in-home birthday party a few weeks ago where we did the complete setup, from the tables to the table settings and all of those things. So you really have to put yourself out there and be involved in your community and know what's going on.
Okay. So in other words, what I'm hearing then is that you are a florist, but if you're asked to cater to an event, I'm hearing that you're not just the provider of the floral arrangement, but it sounds to me as if you can actually host, well, not really host, but service a full occasion in terms of all the things that are needed. are needed. I mean, cut whatever. The fancy things. The furniture, the equipment, the etc. etc. Tell me, so you're almost like a full service florist.
I am a full service florist, and then again, the event side of it, which is actually I love being a florist, but the event side is a little bit more interesting, because you get to create people's vision. And when you're able to create people's vision, I mean, you get happy knowing that they're happy. But you have to be able to diversify your business. You just can't say I'm only going to do flowers, and someone comes and says, "Well, I need flowers, but I also need the setup." When you can provide that full service for your client, trust me, that client is now yours when you're able to provide those services. And another thing is, have the resources. Like, I may not do a certain thing, but it can be a part of what I'm doing. I know how to go out there and find the person who can provide that service, and then I provide the service for the client. So you just have to know how to connect the pieces.
Full package of needs to them. Okay. You had mentioned in speaking to how Sweet Psalms Florist came about, you had mentioned Sweet Psalms Ministry. You mentioned Sweet Psalms Ministry. I just want to go back to that. Tell me a little bit more about Sweet Psalms Ministry.
Okay, so Sweet Psalms Ministry it got started as a prayer ministry. I was going to say for myself, but for others. And through Sweet Psalms Ministry, we did tea parties where we would provide sweets, because I'm a baker in the background, one of my other jobs. And so we used to come together, eat sweet treats, and then we look at the spiritual life of individuals, and we talk about Christ and all of those things. So Sweet Psalms Ministry is actually where the name came from, and then God said, do Sweet Psalms Florist. And it all worked together because, without God, my motto is, without God, you can do nothing. And your challenges are an opportunity for God to work. So
Certainly. And then, okay, and I would imagine under the umbrella of the ministry, you would have been having these events, these functions, these occasions, which then Sweet Psalms Florist would naturally, be able to properly address and service.
That is correct. Because everyone needs table centerpieces.
What is that?
I said everyone needs table centerpieces. The table is not complete without the centerpiece.
Certainly. Great. All right. Tell me, like a final takeaway, what would you want to say to us people? When I say us people, those of us who are thinking that we may want to get into the business, or us people who are thinking that we would want to source your services, us people contemplating that, boy, I really need to now be looking to see if this is something that I'm interested in getting into. Give us a final takeaway on Sweet Psalms Florist.
There's a couple takeaway, David. And as I think about Sweet Psalms Florist, and I think about what it provides to the community, like I was saying, it provides a means of communicating messages when words can't say it, I always say. And our motto is creating floral harmonies and lasting memories. And I just want to add this little tidbit in there. There is a young lady who I have been mentoring for the past 3 months, and she just started her own floral business, and she specializes in just wrap bouquets. So when I talk about knowing the industry and knowing what works for your community, what works for your area, it's key, because that works for her in her area, making wrap bouquets. So do your research. Be diligent about knowing what's going on in the industry. I am a firm believer in going to the floral conventions. I've been going since forever, and knowing what the industry is saying. So don't just jump into the business. Take the time to know the industry and get to know the local florist who's in your area, like myself, because that will help you to understand what we go through, the waves. And the other thing I would love to say is, sit down and talk to And I'm big on this, and David knows. Know your numbers. Know your numbers. And I don't only am working with David on the other side, but definitely having those meetings when you know your numbers. What they say, you know your cash flow, because that is key to keeping this business afloat. If you don't know that, if you don't know that for any business, then you're in serious trouble. So that is my thing, is just educate yourself as much as you can. Know whatever industry you're getting in. And if you're young, talk to somebody who has been in the industry for a while. So that's what I would tell.
Um, as a final query here, I would imagine that you have what I call a florist organization, or most professions or most trade, they have these bodies, governing bodies, so to speak, that not only governs and sets rules and regulation, but actually support the florists. So do we have, tell me, do you have that kind of support system in your industry?
I do. We have the Society of American Florists, and they are, it's just a wonderful, it's a nonprofit organization that really supports the floral industry, or it really supports the local florists. And I've had the opportunity, to speak at those conventions for the past 2 years going, and be a part of the planning committee. And it's funny that you say that, because I'm just thinking, like, I was able to contribute to the Floral Management magazine this upcoming May. That's the magazine will be coming out to.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks. So I will be featured in that, doing an article on sympathy. And that organization is really something that, if you are in the floral industry, if you're in the agricultural part of it, because I forgot to mention that too. But if you don't want to do florists, you could always go into the agricultural part of it, where you learn about the different flowers. Get into finding out information about the Society of American Florists, and they're very accessible. If you call, they actually do answer the phone. So that's something that has really been a great help to the floral industry and myself.
Gotcha. Of course, I said I was giving it further, but as you speak, other things keep coming to my mind. Now, in terms of the supply of flowers, are most of the flowers locally grown, or is it that they are imported from abroad? And what has prompted this question is because we hear about these tariffs on all the things that are being imported. So tell me, is most of the supplies of flowers are from local producers, or they are imported? How is that? How does that?
Majority of flowers are imported. We do have large farms in, like, California and parts of Florida, but a lot of our floral products are imported. And so right now, with the Mother's Day holiday coming up and this new impact, it's like, industries are like locking your floral prices, because we're expecting to see a jump in, and it's mostly in the transportation industry. So to get the flowers here is going to cost us more money. And so this tax now is just something that we're all a little afraid of. And there's actually, they had a meeting yesterday on it. So I'm excited to watch the playback of it to find out how it really, really is impacting us, especially with this upcoming holiday.
Gotcha. Great. Well, a lot of information, very interesting discussion, and of course, I myself have learned quite a bit more about this industry. So I thank you very, very much, LaToya, for stopping by on Crossroads today, to share with us the information. So, okay, so I need to get in touch with LaToya. I need to get in touch with Sweet Psalms Florist. I need to get my thing happening. Okay, there we are. So right on the screen, we have website, phone number. Let's go on to sweetpsalmsflorist.com and
my social media handle on Instagram and Facebook at Sweet Psalms.
Okay. There you have it, everyone. There you have it. Great stuff. Well, thank you very, very, very much, LaToya, and really enjoyed more conversation. And of course, those of guys you're out there, you're listening to the broadcast. I know there are questions that may pop up in your mind as to what is happening, how you can go about making connections. You may be thinking of an event, a party, an anniversary, and say, okay, I know I want this thing to happen, but I do not have a handle on exactly what are the components, how to go about it. Then we're learning that Sweet Psalms Florist is not just a provider of floral arrangements, but you can get the full package to plan, to design, to structure your event, and to just show up and enjoy. Just show up and enjoy. Well, that's about it for us. Thank you again, LaToya. And thank you, my listeners, for joining me on another episode of Crossroads. You can always find this and the previous episodes of Crossroads on our website. Of course, we are featured on all the different social media platforms, on our Facebook, YouTube platforms, but also on our website, Etienne Strategic Management, MC.com, strategicmc.com, and you can access it through our myebsolutions.com also, which is the website for our accounting firm. So there you have it from us here at Etienne Strategic Management, another episode in our current season of Crossroads Navigating Business Challenges. So once again, thank you for joining, and we look forward to speaking with others and to other interesting industry leaders in the weeks to come. Have a wonderful weekend and work hard, stay faithful to the task, and as usual, God bless. David saying bye for
now. Go to etnstrategicmc.com. Check out the latest episode of Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges, with David Etienne.